What's good, Celtics Nation? Welcome back to the Clover Disclosure. I'm your host, Adam Taylor, and today we're continuing with our realistic point guard options for the Boston Celtics. Before we get into today's video, please remember to hit the subscribe button and share this video with anybody who you think might find it entertaining or valuable. It helps the channel grow, helps me personally know that you're enjoying this content, and overall, it means that I'm going to continue producing more and more content that you find entertaining and or valuable. Now, in the last episode, we looked at Ricky Rubio, a guy that really did split opinion across all of social media where I posted this and in the comments section. And that's good. It means that we're looking at what type of guard do the Celtics really need. Is it a pass first point guard? Is it a guy that can create their own offense? Maybe a blend of the two. And more importantly, should that guard be starting caliber or should they be a bench guy? And that's led me to today's option. So today we're going to be looking at Cameron Payne, one of the only point guards left in the league that's still playing NBA basketball right now due to his NBA Finals run with the Phoenix Suns. Now, Cameron Payne was picked 14th in the 2015 draft. And if you're a Celtics fan, which I'm assuming you are watching this channel, you know what it's like for 14th picks in the draft. We've got two of them in Romeo Langford and Aaron Nesmith, and we've seen the struggles they've had cracking the rotation of the Celtics. And it was just the same with Cameron Payne when he was drafted by OKC back in 2015. Some injury problems, some problems with his application to being a professional led to him bouncing around the league before he ultimately found himself in China, where he was unsuccessful, and then had to come back to the States and rebuild his career in the G League. He's done that successfully, and Phoenix took a flyer on him at the start of last year's bubble, offering him a deal along with a second year of non guaranteed money, which they eventually ended up picking up and guaranteeing. That contract runs out at the end of the playoffs, and then we see Cameron Payne become an unrestricted free agent. Personally, I do think that Phoenix and Cameron Payne are going to have mutual interest, and the most likely outcome is we see Cameron Payne continue to play for Phoenix Suns, most likely on like a 2+1 team friendly, continue to prove yourself deal before the big money starts to come if he can stay consistent in 2 or 3 years' time. But there is an option where Cameron Payne decides he wants to try and play somewhere else. Maybe he wants more minutes or a higher usage rate on offense. There could be any number of reasons why he may not choose to remain in Phoenix. And then Boston would be a good destination if they can talk him into a similar type of deal where it's a prove yourself, maybe a taxpayer mid-level exception deal for a year or two. And then we can start talking bigger numbers if you can continue to show consistency. Now, what type of player is Cameron Payne? Now, in these videos, if you've watched a few leading up to this one, we don't do a player breakdown. We're not looking at his whole skill set because that would be a much longer video, to be quite fair. What we're looking at is what does he do well that the Celtics need to elevate their ceiling on both offense and defense? So we're not looking at the player per se. We're looking at what he can do versus what the Celtics need and seeing how well they marry up. Well, we know the Celtics need a point guard that can create off the dribble, that can score on all three levels. That's at the rim, the mid range, and from three, that can create out of the pick and roll either for himself or others, and can defend a couple of different positions. And if he can't defend different positions, maybe he could be a good system defender who can provide good help defense. And that's led me to start looking at Cameron Payne as a very viable option. Now, as with every video we've done so far, we're going to start by looking at where his shot profile comes from, how frequently he's taking shots in different areas. Again, this is frequency. So when we see the percentage, it's what percentage of his offense came at this position, not what percentage did he convert of his shot attempted. We'll look at that in a moment. So let's pull the first one up. What we can see is Cameron Payne's offense is fairly well distributed. Just under 40% comes from the 3-point line, just 35% from mid range, and 26% from the rim. We can see an effective field goal percentage, which is his actual conversion rate. And the difference between effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage is true shooting does incorporate free throws as well, where effective field goal only looks at field goal attempts. So we can see overall, Cameron Payne hit 57.5% of all his field goal attempts this year, which puts him in the 93rd percentile, which is the top 7% of NBA guards, is where Cameron Payne has sat for his effective field goal percentage. What I like is the diversified shot profile. He's not just overloading it from three, he's not relying on mid range, and he is trying to get a little bit from the floater area and around the rim in those layups and attacking space type ideas. Something the Celtics rarely had. Kemba Walker didn't have the burst and didn't attack the rim as much as what we'd like due to the knee issues. And he definitely went away from that mid-range pick and pop he used to run with Daniel Tice, or just a couple of steps in to be a closeout and then firing away from mid-range. Cameron Payne's going to do that. He does have a diversified shot profile, which is super important for a guard coming off the bench, especially if you're going to stagger them with Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. Or if you're running a guy like Payton Pritchard at the two to give you some more spacing, knowing your guard can score from all three levels is going to be a huge boost to the offense. If we look at shot accuracy, well, now we can see some really interesting things. Cameron Payne was one of the best 3-point shooters of from point guards in the entire league, ranking in the 100th percentile. That's the very top percentile, hitting 45% of his threes. It is worth noting that I do get these charts from cleaningtheglass.com, which does have a garbage time filter. So some of these may be a little bit skewed depending on how much garbage time he played in. Looking at the mid range, again, he's 47% from all mid range. This is conversion we're looking at now, and around about 57% at the rim. So realistically, it's a diversified shot profile, and he's hitting them at a very high and consistent clip, making him a deadly option coming off the bench, something the Celtics have really needed. Now, when looking at these types of things, I've asked myself, right, we know he's a free-level scorer, but what's one of the things we want him to do? So if you're running him alongside Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, or you're asking Payton Pritchard to handle the ball in certain positions, maybe you want Romeo Langford as a ball handler for this possession. Well, at this point, now Cameron Payne needs to be able to play off ball. And the most important aspect of being able to play off ball is being able to hit catch and shoot opportunities, especially in movement. So I've looked at two different types of catch and shoot opportunities. We'll take a look at the first one now.
The season, and Portland's been playing tremendous. Dame Lillard is playing like an MVP. It's going to be a tremendous matchup.
Suns with a new franchise record in the home.
So he comes down the floor in transition, receives the ball, steps into the shot, and hits nothing but net. Obviously, in transition, the defense doesn't have time to set up and contest, but regardless, you're still moving at motion and need to be locked in. I would like that type of idea for the Celtics, especially if you've got someone like Pritchard pushing the pace as the ball handler, and then having Cameron Payne operating as the two, and just being able to hit that spot-up shot as quickly as possible off the catch. That's important. Now, what about a half-court set? What we want there, if Cameron Payne's playing off ball, is an ability to relocate, and that's either lifting off pin downs in the corner, so coming from the corner off an off ball screen into the wing and then being able to catch and shoot from there, or maybe waiting for a guy to dribble, drive, penetrate, and then relocating to fill space on that strong side to hit the shot. And that's exactly what we're going to see in this play. So if you watch the ball handler and then look at Cameron Payne waits for the ball handler to penetrate before relocating into empty space on the wing and giving the ball handler great outlet opportunities once the defense collapse on him. It shows high basketball IQ, great play recognition, and then again, an ability to play off ball and finish shots as soon as he needs, as soon as the pass is made.
Rehearsal for the NCAA tournament, calling multiple games. No problem at all. Looking forward to joining Reggie Miller tonight. They couldn't afford Grant to do 2 games, so he gets the rest of the night off. There's a three-pointer by Cameron Payne.
That type of relocation is something the Celtics didn't have this year. If we're being quite honest with ourselves, the offense was quite stagnant. It didn't matter if someone penetrated. Everybody just stayed at their spots and waited for a kick out. Cameron Payne would instantly change that for Boston and would consistently relocate and like to fill space created by anybody penetrating, just to give easy outlet options and to get himself some easy buckets. That to me is super valuable. It keeps the defense in rotation and will encourage others to start relocating and filling space, and then you get more of a fluid motion offense. I like that type of playmaking ability, and I do class it as playmaking because you are stretching out the defense, forcing rotations, and as I've said before on these videos, you don't just judge playmaking by assist numbers. Assists should not be the leading metric for playmaking. Eye test and watching film, in my opinion, should be one of the leading metrics for playmaking. when we move on from just being a catch and shoot threat, another thing the Celtics like to do, well, they did under Stevens, and we can only assume it's going to continue under Udoka because this is the NBA we're talking about, is running a bunch of pick and roll. So you need diversified ability to score in the pick and roll. Can you get to the rim? Can you attack the 3-point shot? Can you attack in the mid-range? Well, I've pulled some videos so we can find out. The first one I want to look at is how Cameron Payne utilizes changes of speed, hesitation moves, and then again a secondary change of speed to get a nice reverse layup. I chose a reverse layup because I like them. I think they're pretty. And just because it was fun to watch Cam Payne just hit somebody with a reverse, if I'm being quite honest.
That's Cameron Payne. Payne to the basket, reverse off the square for a score.
Nothing like seeing a smaller guard with a nice burst of pace using a hezzy move to freeze his defender before blowing by him and again hitting the reverse. I like it. Another option we have is attacking that 3-point line off the pick and roll. I think that's important. But what I like from Cameron Payne here is he uses the scouting report against the closeout defender. And what I mean by that is when you're a 3-level player and you're a 3-level scorer, defenses come into this knowing that if you attack off that 3-point line and put the ball on the floor, there's a possibility you're going to drive the lane or you're going to look to step in and take that mid-range too. So when we watch the video, watch how that defender reacts to Cameron Payne entering beyond inside that 2-point territory before relocating back out of the 3, and I'll explain afterwards why I found that so valuable.
His job is to come off and score. That's what his job is. His job is not to come off and be a 6-man by defending, by facilitating. It's to score, and he does it the best in the league right now.
What happens there is the defender makes himself big and cuts off the paint. Great, that's what you're meant to do. That's what the scouting report says. Don't let Cameron Payne get into the mid-range for a floater or for a layup. What does Cameron Payne do? Threatens it with a dribble, a bit of a hesitation before hitting a quick step back and draining the 3. What this does is freeze the defender for a moment because he's wondering what's going to happen after the hesitation move. And by the time that Cameron Payne's already in shooting motion, that's when the defender has figured out what's going on and has to attack the closeout, at which point it's too late. Use the scouting report against your opponent. And that was a high IQ move from Cameron Payne, in my opinion, just because of the way he did utilize that hezzy first, just to kind of freeze the defender for a moment and allow him time to get that step back. Now, another aspect of this I think is important outside of pick and roll play is being able to attack in space. And this is from a pick and roll situation, but it's just recognizing when a lane has opened up for you and having the confidence and the speed to make the defenders pay for leaving a driving lane open.
The Golden State team is used to being behind. I mean, so it's not an issue. So they know how to navigate getting back in the game.
Well, you love what Cameron Payne has brought to the floor.
Nice little delay set with Dario Saric initiating the handoff. Cameron Payne sees the space, turns the corner, and boom, just turns the Jets on, gets that easy layup. That's, again, something the Celtics didn't have. The Celtics ran a bunch of delay where the big man is at the top of the perimeter in a 5-out offense, and then he's initiating dribble handoffs. But realistically, outside of Kemba Walker, there wasn't really anybody willing to just turn a corner and put pressure on defenses, attacking driving lanes like that. It's another way that Cameron Payne could come in, play it off of a Tristan Thompson or a Robert Williams, and just create scoring opportunities. If the defense collapses, now there's kick out opportunities. Attacking space is something that the bench unit really struggled with this year, and I think Cameron Payne could solve by being an addition to the team. One thing I did not like about Cameron Payne's game is his affinity towards scoop layups, jelly layups. We saw the same with Jeff Teague last season. It used to drive me wild. If you follow me on social media, you've probably seen me bitching about that at some point or another. And the reason I don't like them is because they're easily blockable. You're extending your body, which is lowering your center of gravity. The ball's so far out that you're not protecting it. It can get swiped from either side or from behind, and it's easy to knock a guy off course due to that center of gravity no longer being central to your like your solar plex and your stomach. So if we watch this now, we'll see that it just, try and kiss it high off the glass all you want. If you're jellying, and I get it, your wingspan's long, it makes up for a bit of space, you can jump from a bit further away. But for me, they're just not high percentage layups.
I mean, that's his bread and butter. He's not going to relent.
Cameron Payne working up the screen, runs it up high. Turner got a piece, sets it up for E'Twaun Moore with a follow.
They suck. I don't like them. I don't like the fact that Cameron Payne's going to be using them. And even though I like a lot of what he would bring to the team on offense, that would drive me nuts. However, we need to move on. I digress. So now I want to look at his playmaking ability. And again, I don't use assists as a playmaking metric, but here in this instance, the Celtics do need somebody that can orchestrate with the ball in their hands and make easy buckets. Number one being a driving kick maestro, or somebody that at least has that in their arsenal that can penetrate off the dribble and then set up guys off a driving kick scenario, which was why Rubio made sense to at least do a video on last week. So here we're going to see Cameron Payne showing that he can orchestrate driving kick opportunities. He doesn't do them often. It's not something that he's been primarily asked to do, obviously operating alongside guys like Chris Paul, Devin Booker. There's other playmakers of a higher caliber than him, but when he's asked to do this, he can do it quite efficiently.
Phoenix goes with a smaller center of 4 in Saric. Cameron Payne kicks it out. Nader's jumper's good.
I like that. I think that that's important, being able to catch guys like Jaylen Brown who can then rip through off the catch. The Celtics have some elite level slashers, and having driving kick ability, having somebody that doesn't mind just venturing into the defense before redirecting the ball and allowing one of these elite slashers to make something happen, that is very important to the Celtics. And for me as a analyst, I think that is one of the biggest components that was missing, not only from the bench unit, but from the starting unit as well this season. That brings me on to just say, like, when I do say that assists aren't the greatest metric to judge playmaking from, I wanted to pull an example, especially since I've been driving that point home during this video. Defense to collapse before redirecting to a slasher or to a trailing big or to somebody sitting out in the corner, because me personally, still an assist, but it doesn't hold the same value.
Ball for 3. That's good.
See, it's just an easy, here you go, you take the shot instead of me, but that's an assist. It goes on your wired metric as a reason for just judging a player's playmaking ability. Now, all that's left is to look at defense. Again, Cameron Payne to me is a system defender. He's not going to be your point of attack guy. That's not his game. I don't think he has the skill set required to be locking up opponents' best player on the floor at that moment in time. So instead, I see him as a system defender. Here's a clip of where he got switched onto Markieff Morris and had to front the post and try and defend from the low block as a help defender at the same time.
Outside to Horton Tucker. Switch on defense. Harrell up top. James really up top. Knifing his way inside. Plowing now with the...
As you can see, Markieff Morris, he had to use a lot of power to just front him, make sure that nothing was really going wrong there. And I think that was important. And again, he got the block operating as a low help defender. I think he'd be good as a weak side eye defender, somebody that could pinch in off the wings. And then if he is playing point of attack defense, maybe switching early, not soft switching, but switching early enough to allow somebody like Marcus Smart to slide onto a best player would be favorable. But I do think with his wingspan and speed, he does have the ability to stay in front of most second unit guards. And that's why he's been so successful in Phoenix throughout this playoff run and throughout the regular season. Another thing I like about him is his tenacity at fighting through screens. I've got a clip here of where he basically just doesn't let Giannis impart his will and just isn't having any of it, fights through the screen, still gets the fly-by contest and make sure the shot's missed. And it's that sort of tenacity that would endear him to the Boston crowd and would make him a great fit alongside a secondary guy like Payton Pritchard that also plays with intensity but does have some physical limitations.
Takes the 3. Holiday is open. Right corner 3.
I like that. I like the way he kind of like fought with Giannis before spinning off him and then getting the closeout. It's that, again, it is that type of intensity that the Celtics lacked on that second unit. It was very blasé, very passive at times. Grant Williams caught a ton of heat for that passive kind of body language that you have, and I think that Cameron Payne would help up the effort level there. And that's why Marcus Smart is so valuable, because when you see somebody hustling their butt off, you feel like you have to hustle your butt off too, otherwise you're going to look bad. Cameron Payne does that in bunches. I think that's because of how he's had to fight his way back into the league. and it's just made him more of a tenacious defender. Here's the last example I'm going to show you. He doesn't give up on plays. You'll see here that a layup, he's been beaten off the dribble, he's trading the play in rear view. He doesn't give up, and he manages to actually get the block. And again, that's just to display that tenacity.
7 points. Bridges 23 tonight, Kevin.
Fighting inside Morris. Knocked away that time by Payne.
Just tenacious. I love it. I think that as a defender, he's never going to be the best point of attack defender, but as a system defensive piece, I think he's going to be fantastic. Now, as I did say at the top of this video, I don't think he's going to be realistically available because I think Phoenix are going to come to an agreement with him, but he is a realistic option in terms of financial package. If he doesn't go to Phoenix, then I think that he falls right within the Celtics available cap space, taxpayer mid-level exception type option. And I do think he would be a solid fit for the Celtics. Let me know in the comments what you think. Please, again, hit that subscribe button, that share button, and I'll be back later this week as we start to wrap up our realistic point guard options for this team.